What's good, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. I'm LotusAsakura, the one who never knows best, and today I'm bringing you a very special video that I think a lot of you guys are going to enjoy, because I'm not only here today to talk to you guys about ranks in Tekken, which is obviously always a hot topic of conversation, but I'm joined by a very special guest, the FGC's brightest and quickest rising star. We have none other than PhiDX joining me here on the channel today. PhiDX, say what's up to everybody.
What's up, everybody?
Yeah, so this is something that I'm sure you guys are excited to see. It's something that I've wanted to do for a while, but what PhiDX doesn't know, I mentioned briefly that I had something I wanted to say, is that I think PhiDX is kind of the perfect example of the type of person I wanted to be when I started getting serious about creating content for fighting games. What a lot of you guys don't know, because I don't think I've ever talked about this, but when Dragon Ball FighterZ first came out and I kind of got serious about making videos and things like that, and especially when it came to collaborating with other creators and trying to make content that was not only enjoyable, but also to some extent educational, the first person I remember having a serious conversation with this was Lord Knight, who I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with. But I told Lord Knight almost word for word, I want to help bridge the gap between the casual audience and the more serious and competitive player. And I always felt as somebody who kind of hangs in that realm between like competitive player and like casual, you know, I'm better than the average player, but I'm not like amazing, but I know a little bit, but not everything, you know what I'm saying? And I think what PhiDX has been doing lately is pretty much exactly that, and doing it at a higher level than I could have ever hoped to. So it's really cool to see creators like him and Sajam coming onto the scene and seeing a lot of success in creating exactly that type of content. Because I don't want to say it's like my dream come true, but like the vision that I foresaw like those years ago, like that's the thing that we're seeing in the space now, and I think he's doing an incredible job with that.
That's a great intro. I appreciate that.
No doubt. But yeah, so today's video is going to be talking about ranks. There's a conversation that's always been floating around and something that I've taken part in myself. And the question, I guess, is, does rank matter? In short, that's basically going to be the main focal point of today's video. And first, I guess I'll just ask you, Phi, what do you think rank matters? And if so, to what extent?
My go-to catchphrase I've been using since Tekken 7, because the ranked system is not like a traditional ELO system like chess, or like a pretty robust one like Riot Games uses. So I've always said, if you get to a certain rank, it doesn't mean you're a certain skill level. But if you're struggling to get to a certain rank, there's probably some stuff you can work on. And I stand by that. I stand by that statement really heavily in terms of approaching ranks in Tekken specifically.
That sounds really good. That's actually a really concise way of wording basically what I feel like I've been struggling to articulate, because I've been someone who has said before countless times, whether it be on social media or on YouTube, like rank doesn't matter. And of course it does to some extent. There is a correlation between a player's skill level and their rank, but I feel like that correlation is pretty loose. So as you said, like if you can get to a certain rank, then it may not necessarily mean that you're good, but if you're struggling to get to that rank, then there's definitely some areas that you need to sharpen up in order to get to that point. And I think it's really easy for players who are at a higher rank, or especially if they're at the max rank, to say, oh, rank doesn't matter. And that's because like once you get to that point, you understand more often than not that improvement wasn't about getting to that rank. Because even if you hit the max rank in a fighting game, it doesn't mean that like you've won. It doesn't mean that you've beaten the game. It doesn't mean that you've learned everything there is to learn. There's still so much more room to grow. And I think that's what helps people get to that point in the first place, is understanding that the rank isn't the end goal. It's kind of like just a small part of the overall journey of being a fighting game player and improving your skills and getting better at the game. Any comment on that?
Yeah, I think that I came from a place of deeply caring about rank, where like in League of Legends, if I got a certain rank, I could maybe start boosting other people and actually make money. I could stream and like, you know, have credibility. Like so much stuff literally correlated to rank. And even in a game like that, people will say things like rank doesn't matter. And when I was in that headspace, I had a lot of that was a very like, not like hurtful, like insulting, but it was a very painful statement to hear, as in like, why is this thing that I care about, the place I'm trying to get to, why is everybody there telling me it doesn't matter?
Right.
When very clearly it does matter. Are they lying to me? Things like that, right? And I think with the context of how fighting games have gone for me, it just it's, you know, the stereotypical statement, there's always another mountain to climb. But if you compare the stress of sitting on stage after you've paid thousands of dollars to fly out to Chicago for a tournament, and you're Tekken god, or you're god of destruction, and the other guy you're fighting is playing like a green rank, and you get sent to losers by him, you get eliminated by him, the rank is the last thing on your mind. It's, how did I lose this? I played like ass. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and that happened to me at EVO 2022. I was fighting this Devil Jin player. I don't know his rank, right? But he played with all of the horniest mix-ups you could think of. The crouch dash jumping move into the low, and he mixed it up with the mid. And At that point, I had already had multiple tournament wins online, but I had gone to the, Tekken World Tour online challenge. Like, they flew me out. I was top 8. I was on like top of my game, and I lost to that. And at that point, my rank was so far out of my mind, right? It was just, what do I need to do to fix this? Because clearly I'm the highest rank. He's playing this scrubby style is how I was framing it, right? Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, he was the one on top. I was the one flying home. So I think that's where that higher level perspective comes from, is that as you compete higher and higher, as you pursue tournaments and excellence in other areas, you're forced to look at things to improve that just don't line up with rank. And then you start fighting people at top rank who are missing these skills. So then the easy summary is just, rank means nothing. But I think it misses that nuance of, like, if you've strived for the highest level of play, you start to notice things that are missing. And those things start to become more important to you because you have to look at those, not the icon on the screen, if you're going to fix the problem.
Right. And that icon on the screen will just naturally come along as you are in pursuit of the things that are, I don't want to say more important, but honestly that are more important, you know what I'm saying? And that's not to say, because the reality is, and I'm not sure exactly how I'm titling this video, I don't know if it's something along the lines of like the harsh reality or the harsh truth about your Tekken rank, or does rank matter, but the truth is a lot of people are looking for validation. In fact, I'm willing to bet that at least half of you or more clicked on this video because you're looking to hear some sort of validation about the rank that you got, either whether like, I made it to Mighty Ruler, so does that make me a good player, or is it Fusion does make me a good player, or is it, you know what I'm saying, you want to hear that your rank means something and that what you worked so hard to get to, like it mattered. And at the end of the day, I think taking pride in whatever level you get to is a perfectly fine thing to do, as long as people understand that focusing so much on like that icon on the screen will kind of only serve as like a mental block that will hold you back from reaching heights even greater than that.
Yeah. I think that I've always placed so much value as someone who literally came from all that matters is the top rank, top 200 league, power ranked in Super Smash Bros, right? I always chased the top and statistics, and that came from my upbringing where it was all about literal life achievement in a similar way. And I think transitioning out of that mindset has been one of the best ways for me to continue enjoying video games, period, and to actually reach those goals that were eluding me, right? So for specific context, I spent 4 years in platinum rank in League of Legends. I wanted to hit diamond. That was kind of my touchstone. And I spent all 4 years being like angry, upset, looking for validation, things like that, buying coaching to get validation from the coach, all these kinds of common mental traps. And it wasn't until I decided, hey, you need to chill. like focusing on that rank does not give you the literal skill in game of hitting your punishes, of spacing better, of controlling your character. The best players in the world, when it's time to game, they're gaming. They're not thinking about these things, right? So after those 4 years of banging my head in the wall, I spent one summer trying to let it go. Like in the off season, I just played without thinking about it. I hit like halfway through the diamond ranks in 50 games. It was like night and day. And that sounds dramatic, but it was after 4 years of doing the opposite, right? So like there was a clear comparison.
For sure.
But I speak heavily from experience in that I think it's the way to go to enjoy your progress, to enjoy playing the video game more than the achievement that you need to ask others for to get the enjoyment out of. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think a lot of us look at ranks as milestones, and I think that's perfectly fine. But it's just important, I guess, to not equate necessarily those milestones as a necessarily, I don't know, a fact or like evidence that I've improved this much. You know what I'm saying? Just because you may have been struggling to get from Tendu to Mighty Ruler and then you hit Mighty Ruler doesn't necessarily mean that you overcame the hurdles that were holding you back. It's sure, it's like, okay, I achieved this rank, I'm proud of that, that's good. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you got better. You might have just thrown your head at the wall until you got the result that you were looking for. I think from there, I want to transition into the conversation of the question of what is considered a good rank or what's a high rank? Because I'm sure this is a question that you get a ton of. It's a question that I get a ton of. And I think I want to start it off by letting people know that there's no like real clear-cut answer. There's no black and white answer to this, because the reality is there are plenty of players who make it to the highest rank in the game, and there's still a huge gap between them and other God of Destruction players. If you're somebody who regularly watches TNS or the Sweet event or any of these online tournaments, and let alone when the offline tournaments are happening, you'll notice that there are players who are God of Destruction, and maybe not necessarily God of Destruction, but somewhere along Tekken God Supreme, who are not making these top 8s or not winning these events. And it's not because they're not great, but there's also because there's just such big gaps there, even in between those levels of play. So when it comes to the question of what's considered a good rank or what's considered a high rank, there's a lot of like nuance there, because the skill level, the play styles, the mentalities, there's so much that varies within it that it's hard to say, oh, if you made it to Fujin, then you're probably a pretty good player. Because honestly speaking, I'm of the belief that you can get to and again, like what's even considered a high rank, it's kind of subjective, but you can get to a relatively high, let's say if you say Fujin, right? If you want to say Fujin's a high rank, which I think most people would say is, you can get to that level without really learning a whole lot about the overall game of Tekken and just having a good understanding of your own character and your character's offensive options, which is what I commonly see and have experienced in my time playing the game online, and you can probably attest to that as well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that since the moment I booted up the game, it's been a question I think in the back of my mind, I know people are going to ask, and I've been paying close attention to try and identify, like, is there a cut between red ranks and this skill thing, and orange ranks and this skill thing, and purple ranks? And the more I play the game, the more it's fuzzier. and it's also important to note that it's month 2 and 3 of the game. Mm-hmm. Everything changes so quickly, right? Like early on, getting out of red ranks might have been so hard because every former Tekken 7 legacy player was also there. And now that things are kind of settling, and like most people are like the legacy players that I used to interact with a lot in tournaments are sitting Tekken God Plus, the early ranks might be a bit easier. They might be a bit harder if you're running into them on their second or third character.
I think they're a little difficult right now with Eddie thrown the mix starting out at beginner.
And then, with Eddie in beginner, like you were tweeting. So like, I think, there's so many different things at play. And one thing I wanted to touch on is you said, getting ranked up, or like, how do you pay attention to what I'm going to answer what I think is a good rank, but
for sure. I mean, take your time. Like I said, we got nothing but time.
You said you might have just banged your head into a wall and ranked up. Like the icon changing doesn't reflect a change in skill, and I think that is crucial, especially in a game like Tekken, where you might have a skill to apply, it doesn't apply in this matchup. You might have a new tactic that specifically works in these situations. That situation only comes up like 50% of the time instead of every single time. So you might be improving and demoting, and you don't see the fruits of it until it sinks into your subconscious muscle memory, and you get fast at doing it, you get efficient at doing it, and then you suddenly shoot up a bunch of ranks, right? Like that is a very Tekken phenomenon. Back in Tekken 7, back in Tag 2, right? Like this is a very consistent thing that's been shown through really good coaches who have worked with other players. So
this is something I can actually attest to, because I've been getting coaching myself, because I've played Tekken since I was a kid, but I only really got into Tekken with Tekken 7. That was the first time I was like, I'm trying to get good at this fighting game, and I was watching tournaments and looking at stuff on YouTube and everything like that. And then with Tekken 8, like I'm taking Tekken more serious than I ever have before. It's my main game now. And so I've gotten coaching from Kwis, who I'm sure all of you guys are familiar with, and I know you know, and Speed Kicks, of course, who is arguably the greatest coach we got going on right now.
No, high key.
And I tried to internalize a lot of the lessons that they were giving me and a lot of the advice. And at first, I felt like there were certain things that I was able to implement, and I saw immediate results. And then going into ranked or whatever, right? Because there was a point where I was kind of hovering in that like Fujin, Raijin area, and I was like, okay, I'm not really progressing too much here, so let me go and find out the things that I need to work on. And then like right away I saw an improvement, and then I felt like I saw a huge regression. Was like, okay, what's going on here? Like, why am I suddenly losing so many games? And then again, sometimes you just have to understand like when to take a step back, and then just understand that you're doing the things that you were working on. It may not necessarily be giving you the immediate result that you intended, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing the wrong thing. Now you could also argue that, well, if you're losing, then you're doing the wrong thing, but you're not necessarily in the wrong for losing, as long as you're understanding that there are lessons to be learned and things that you're improving upon, right? And basically, I'm saying all this to say, I'm starting to ramble, that once I took that step back and just, look back at the things that I was doing and review my replays, I was like, no, I think I'm doing the right thing. I'm on the right track. I just need to get more consistent, more efficient, everything like you said. Yeah. And I started win streaking.
You can do the right thing badly.
For sure, right? For sure. Like you might have what you're alluding to. Yeah, you like for example, let's say you learn the new punish for this string, right? Yeah, and you do the punish, but you were too slow, and now you're getting punished for trying to do the right punish. There's things like that, and it's one of those things where like I lost a bunch of games and I got demoted, and then take a step back, and then I went on like a 7-game win streak and an 8-game win streak and so on and so forth. And currently I'm sitting at Bushin, which, you know, is respectable rank. I'd like to think so. You know what I'm saying? I play Huarong, so y'all think I'm carried, even though that character's mid-tier, but it's cool. It's fine. I'm still working hard and making improvements where I can. And like we said, PhiDX, he's currently hard selecting that Tekken God, Tekken Lord Supreme kind of area, but I'm sure he'll be hitting God of Destruction very soon.
And yeah, that's a good transition, I think. You have in the ranked ladder, and this is why I value ranked over quick match, is you have everybody trying everything to win. Right? In quick match, you don't know how seriously they're trying.
Man, I'm unbeatable in quick match.
yeah, and the pressure is gone. You know, the difference between playing poker for free and playing poker for 1 penny is still night and day. People still care just slightly more, and ranked is the same way. So, and I say this to say that when I got to Tekken Emperor to God of Destruction, I saw so many different ranges of skills. It like early on, I think it was like, say like yellow, orange, red. You got people whiffing, you got people doing unsafe strings, you got people, you know, they're learning their character, they're learning to pilot their character. I would say the yellow to the purple ranks is a lot of, can you pilot your character?
Right.
Can you not only just literal controls and like basic combos, do you understand certain situations that are really in your favor? Can you frame trap in a lot of ways to force your opponent to be uncomfortable? Can you do the cheap stuff that makes your opponent want to unplug their controller? You know what I mean? Like this is the yellow to purple is a lot of that. And then I think blue rank is where you get people who are clashing, who can all do that. Right? So defense becomes more of a priority, either overwhelming offense that you're so much better, or starting to implement defensive things that can help you counter specific things, right? Like in yellow to purple, the defense you need to learn is stop mashing on wake up so you don't die. Like, get more chances to run your shit. And then blue rank and above, it becomes like, okay, both players have a lot of good shit to run. We have to actually survive and, you know, reduce the RPS a little bit.
Right.
A little bit. Yeah. So then I started hitting Tekken King, Tekken Emperor Plus, and I would say Tekken King feels like the top blue rank. Like I notice a significant gap in the Tekken Kings to the Tekken Emperors. Just in my recent days of grinding. So I would say the top bracket is Emperor to God of Destruction, and there the variance is so high. There are Tekken Emperors I've fought who feel like tournament demons, who I'm like, I cannot find a way to open them up. I'm getting destroyed.
Right.
And then there are Gods of Destruction who are playing like elite blue ranks. Like, you ever fight a God of Destruction Yoshimitsu and you watch them and they're literally just running through a deeply efficient flowchart.
I'm not gonna hold you. So every Yoshi player feels like a God of Destruction. I'm not gonna lie.
No, and that's what I mean. Every God of Destruction Yoshi I fought feels like a deeply optimized Yoshi I fought before. So it's like, I don't feel necessarily that they are out Tekkening me or out mind gaming me. They are just so hard to beat because they're so clean at the offensive flowcharts, at not dying to my stuff so they can run their thing the next time, right? So I would say that's the top bracket, Tekken Emperor to God of Destruction. Do I think it's good? My answer is that there's really good players in there and there's really, really not good players in there. And you can see that in my play too. In Tekken God Supreme, I'm missing whiff punishes, launch punish comes, I'm doing a jab, right? Like, everybody in that top bracket is probably the close to best. You know, obviously that's the top bracket. But there are still so many holes in people's gameplay. And if people really want, I mean, people are going to want a validating answer, and I feel like it's my job not to give it.
No, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not here to give an answer that validates people, because like that's something I've noticed a lot in the videos that I've been making. Like, whether it's like a more like kind of entertaining but also somewhat serious video at certain points of like, how annoying is your main or how carried are you? It's like people are like, oh yeah, my character's in this low tier, he's not that annoying, or like, my character is difficult, like how hard is this character? Well, my character is hard, so that means that I'm probably working harder than the other people who are in my rank. And it's like, well, in reality, like, your orange rank, like, you're all still very much learning, and it doesn't really make a huge difference what character you're playing down there. It's, and you know, there's a lot for all of you to work on. But I think that's a great transition into kind of the next thing I want to talk about, and that is what separates players between ranks and the ranks above them. And then I want to answer the question of, when do people start playing quote unquote real Tekken, if that's even a thing. And I think the defense you mentioned is probably the biggest separator for me, at least in my experience, because like, I'm Bushin rank now, so I fought everything up to that point. And you know, in my quick matches, which is where I'm playing a lot right now, I've come across like a decent amount of like Tekken Kings and a couple of Tekken Emperors. I definitely feel you on that gap between Tekken King and Emperor, which again doesn't necessarily mean if you make it to Tekken Emperor, oh, I'm officially a good Tekken player. That may or may not be the case, but I can handle the Tekken Kings pretty easily so far in my experience. Like, you know, it goes back and forth, but they don't feel like beyond my ability to conquer. The game is designed this way, so it's no surprise. But I think this is just like a fighting game player thing in general, especially for like newer beginning players. There's such a huge focus on offense and aggression. And like you said, up until basically the Blue Wings, it's all about focusing on how to pilot your character, how to maximize your combos, how to get the most screwed up Oki, the most efficient flowchart and everything of that nature. And I've still seen a lot of that all the way up through Bushin rank, where a lot of players, they're so focused on their offense that they're not worried about mine. And what I mean is that I do something that's incredibly unsafe or very punishable, and I kind of get away scot-free with it. And I'm not really seeing a whole lot of punishment, which I think is such a crucial and like fundamental aspect of Tekken. And so like I'll do something like with watering like my back 3, which I should be getting launched for, and at worst I might get jabbed.
yeah no, and I think the way you framed it is really good. Like, rather than which rank am I good, I like the idea of framing what skills I'm seeing in which brackets, so people can target a concrete skill to work on. Right? I really like that framework more, because it just feels like a losing battle to play in that dimension of, well, this rank you're good, this rank you're good, right? It's never ending, right? I'm Tekken God Supreme and I feel horrible, like, and like I know the feeling of being hard stuck yellow from past Tekkens, from again my other games I've been played. Right?
Tekken 7, it took me over a year to reach Warrior rank. Like when I first got into Tekken 7, it legitimately took me a year to hit Warrior. People are doing that in their first time touching Tekken 8 now.
And so I you feel me. It's like it's a losing battle. There's always, humans will always look to the next mountain to climb. So for me, it's how can we enter a new way of thinking that is more fulfilling, more enriching, and more enjoyable. And my favorite quote on stuff like this is like, how can you love the struggle?
You gotta fall in love with the grind, bro.
Yeah. And so I briefly mentioned it, but like I think if we're gonna really dig into it, beginner to yellow rank is a lot of, this is my first Tekken, what do my buttons do? How do I move around? What do attacks look like? Oh, when this spark comes up, it's a block. When this spark comes up, it's a hit. It sounds patronizing, but really, the eyes are taking in all these things. And it's impossible to teach somebody, oh, punish here, do this move, if you can't control your character. The mental like stack of just existing in the engine can be too much to get any kind of agency. So for me, beginner to green rank is that. And all these things aren't like hard cutoffs. They continue to bleed throughout. Like I'm in, again, Tekken God Supreme, visually seeing things that confuse me. so it's never ending. It's more like a gradient. Like you slowly start reducing how hard some things are the higher you go. And so with that framework in mind, I would say yellow ranks is where I tell people, if you can learn one frame trap, you cruise through to the next bracket, because people have no idea what's even hitting them. Man. So if you just play by the rules of the road, you win. You know what I mean?
One of my most recent videos is me demonstrating frame traps and telling people like, this could probably get you all the way through the red ranks, because being the rank that I am, like, so my lowest characters right now being Bushin, they start off at Tenryu. And so I've gotten several other characters, well, I say several, like 3 or 4 other characters to Mighty Ruler, other than my main, right? Yeah. And so I've spent a lot of time in the red ranks, and frame traps will carry you along, and it's something that works all the way up to the highest level of Tekken. You know what I'm saying? You're going to see success with that at every level, but you will especially see it at that level, because they don't know what they're getting hit by. They don't know if something's plus or minus on block, and everybody just wants to push buttons. And so it's a really effective tool that will go a long way, and it's something that you'll always use. It's not like some cheap gimmick that'll stop working once you hit so-and-so rank, or if you're up against so-and-so player. It's like, this is a fundamental strategy that you will always use.
If they don't know that the red light means stop, they're gonna get hit in the intersection. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so you are giving them constant red lights, whether they see it or not. The red light is the red light. That is how the game works. You know, so and ironically, I think that does, like you were saying, it does go through red ranks. And the difference between a yellow, orange, and red rank is how can they die a little less to what the opponent's doing, right? Like some people wake up mash armor and get hit by a launching low. Some people are always just trying to play their frame trap and getting hit. So this refinement in, again, controlling your character, visually taking in what your opponent's doing, and then surviving And so you can run your opportunity next. There are windows where you have to stop too, and it's your job to see that. And it's not turtle up and defend. It's more like literally just you just got hit, and maybe it's time to block.
Right.
Like some people will just keep mashing every time they get hit over and over and over, right?
Yeah, some people really can't be conditioned, and conditioning is one of those things where at first it's useless because players who don't know any better don't know any better, and then at some point it becomes really, really effective when now people are afraid to do anything, and you get to start doing other things. And then once you get to a high level again, it's like, okay, well now this is useless because this person's like, he ain't gonna do it again, or I'm better, like, you know what I'm saying? And that type of mentality or that mindset is something that applies to like a lot of things where at a low level of fighting games, everyone's just mashing. And then at the middle level, like people are like, okay, no, I'm trying to be solid. These are the things I'm working on. This is my punish. This is my game plan. This is my flow chart. And at the high level again, it's like,
yes,
yo, everyone's just mashing. Like what
the bell curve, yeah. No, I was fighting speed kicks, and I in this game I would consider myself pretty heavily mid level because I have to relearn like the paradigm of the game, the flow, the priorities are just so different from 7, and like the fundamentals are the same, but I'd say the priorities of the game are very different. And when I fought speed kicks, he kept hitting me with the Horang Skyrocket, and he said PhiDX. I lost like 10-0. He's like, I want to advance the mind game. Like he wants to condition me, but you keep ducking. Do you think I'm having fun doing the mid over and over again? No, but it's what's working. So I'm going to keep doing the mid. And so, yeah, even at mid high level right now, like it's not worth trying to think about conditioning or mind games. You know, it's a fighting game, so there's some RPS, but you're really learning the rules of the road and playing what the game is allowing you to do and what it isn't allowing you to do will get you so far. You know,
this is something I put a lot of thought into myself about the idea of like real Tekken, or like when are people playing Tekken? And to me, I feel like this video is a whole lot of like us not giving like very vague or ambiguous answers and not actually answering the questions, but I still like the conversation around it and like the types of ideas or the thoughts that we're probably putting into the heads of the viewers. And I kind of want to give them more so things to think about than just like you said, just validating answers that just straight up say, oh, if you made it to Garyu, if you made it to Mighty Rule, if you made it to Fujin, you're a pretty good Tekken player, because there's so much variance between the ranks, there's so much nuance, there's so much context, and you know there might be so many holes in your game that you're lacking, but you know weren't exploited by the players that you were up against. So you might have had a good day or lucky matchups, or unlucky day and unlucky matchups, whatever the case may be. But for me, right, I noticed that you get pretty far through the ranks before you start seeing people actually implementing every aspect of what makes Tekken, whether that's
we should define that. We should define like what do we call real Tekken, because so many people have different ideas on that, right? Some people think real Tekken is just backdashing all the time. That's right. But you know, like there's a lot of definitions, so we should probably like what is real Tekken to you? How does it like when you envision real Tekken? What does it feel? What does it feel
to
like?
me, the idea of real Tekken, and I keep putting like these air quotes on screen because it's like, what is real Tekken? But like when I think of what Tekken is as a game, what Tekken is being played, when two players know what they're doing, and I'm seeing two people who I think are good at the game. There's spacing, there's obviously offense, there's the ability to block punish, the ability to whiff punish, sidestepping, movement. All of those things are very, very important. It's a combination of all these different factors and all these different things that Tekken offers that makes it the game that it is, and also makes it unique to other fighting games. I feel like there's so many things when it comes to like I feel like I guess the biggest ones are like punishment and movement. Those are the two biggest things I feel like are lacking. And again, I always feel kind of like a hypocrite when I talk about things like this, because I'm not like a super skilled player. Like my movement's not crisp. It's not like I have great defense, but I think the difference is like I'm able to see that and understand that and accept that, right? But regardless, I feel like those are the two biggest aspects I see missing from the majority of players that separates them from the highest level.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would largely agree. Like Tekken is a game where the goal is to get your opponent's HP to 0 or win by time, right? Those are and then do it in 3 rounds before they do. And the way you get there is really just a fast-paced rock, paper, scissors over and over and over again, right? And what I think I would agree with you, where I consider the real Tekken arrives, is where mistakes are no longer free, right? Like where you do an unsafe string, you get punished. You do a string with a high, you get ducked, assuming it's like not like a mix-up string, right? Your opponent abuses or constantly goes minus, right? Like say they do a bunch of safe moves, but they're always minus. So you're applying mix-ups with that frame advantage over and over and over again in a way that your opponent can't read, right? So there's like there's the rules of the road, the basics of punishment and movement and playing solid, and then there's also this Tekken element that is human, where it's can I Like say you have perfect mechanics, like you have perfect punishment, perfect blocking, but you always do a launch punishable low. Is that real Tekken? Well, not really, right? Because yes, you can punish really well, but if your opponent just always low blocks, then you lose.
Right.
So I think there's the mechanical and like the objective component, like the game states, and then there's the human component where are you able to be ambiguous with your offense? Are your timings hard to read? Or, like all these like the fighting game part, the part that people generally latch onto, I think early, like the fun part, right? When you're beating somebody up on the couch, like the mind games and stuff. So I think where does that start for me? I've seen it as early as Tenryu. I've seen it missing in God of Destruction.
and that's the point, right? Is that it varies so much, and some of that has to do with the player, some of that can do with the character, because I don't want to say, oh, if you're playing this character you're carried. I mean, I've made videos like that, but that's not the point of this conversation, right? But it's, you do objectively see a difference in certain types of players at certain levels depending on the character that they play. Like that is exactly. That is absolutely a thing, and so that's why it's like you'll see, like you might be Fujin, another player might be Fujin, and he might body you, and then you might go up against other Fujins and you're completely bodying them, and there's such a drastic variance in that. But yeah, I feel like that's something that when you're at the highest, well, not necessarily, when you're competing at the highest level, right, you're normally going to see all those aspects. But even at God of Destruction, if you're just playing ranked, you're just playing online, you'll see some of those fundamentals missing from those players.
Yes,
and that's why it's so hard to say, oh, if you get to this level, then you're a great player. Because like I mentioned earlier, like you could get to God of Destruction and still get bodied in a tournament. You know what I'm saying? Just because you made it to the highest rank doesn't mean that you're so much better than so many other players. And I know it's easy to look at things that way because we've seen the data. I've made videos covering it where it's like, oh, if you're Fujin rank, if you're Bushin rank, you're like the top 1% of players. I'm like, on paper, that sounds crazy. Oh, I must be sick nasty. And I'm one of those players that's like always downplaying myself. And I feel like you're cut from a very similar cloth because you said you're Tekken God Supreme and you called yourself a mid-level player, right? A lot of people would really push back on that. And I'm Bushin, so I'm just like a few ranks behind you. And I call myself trash all the time. And like, obviously I know that like I'm better than most players, but that's not good enough for me. Like I'm obviously aiming for higher than that. And my rank doesn't just like, even though there is some like, oh, sick, I made it to a higher rank. I like that's not the end goal, right? And so I understand that that there's so much further to go, and that's why I'll tell myself like, oh, I'm not that good, or I'll call myself like an intermediate player, like a just like a slightly above casual, like above average player. But I try not to give myself too much credit because I know that there's such a drastic difference between myself and like the guys I'm watching compete at Combo Breaker or CDO or Evo.
And the way I'd frame it is that I think the world gives us a lot of reason to put people into top X% brackets. The world gives us a lot of reason, whether it's our schooling, whether it's like, ranking, it's money, all these things. The world just puts us in a position to want to value that. And I push back against that as somebody who comes deeply from that world and really valued that kind of mentality. I push back and want to look at it qualitatively. So I don't care that I'm top X%. I don't care that I'm objectively higher than these many people. I care that when this dude did a launch punishable move, I kicked his foot for 2 damage.
Facts. And that's the thing, is because I got a lot of comments on one of my videos where I said like blue rank was like intermediate level or like, not particularly high rank or something like that. And I think part of that is because people are looking for validation and they want to believe that if they're in this top percent or if you're better than this many people, that must mean that you're really good at the game. But I'm a believer that you can be better than most people and still be bad, and I think to a lot of people that doesn't make sense, but I put it this way, right? This was the example I gave on my stream a few times in a conversation that I had with some friends, and I was like, okay, well, let's say you're in school, okay? And you get like a 60% on your test out of 100. That's not really good. But let's say everybody else in your class got a 50% or lower. Well, just because you did just because you did better than everyone else doesn't mean that you're smart. Maybe everybody else is just worse.
If you're like 7 foot tall and you can dunk, are you nasty at ball? Probably not. Like assuming you just grew up and you're just that tallest guy there. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I think it's a lot deeper than that.
And it's fine to enjoy it. I think it's fine to enjoy it, right? Like,
for sure.
If that's something you enjoy, sure. But I think that it's more enriching to just look at it. And then there are downsides to always being like trying to look for the next thing to improve, right? It can feel really discouraging. It can feel exhausting, right? There are definitely downsides. So I would say it has to be holistically fun through the whole process. having fun while failing, and then tasting that micro improvement that feels really good. It's like a sensory perception thing too, right? Like as you focus less on the destinations and you're looking for these micro improvements, you start to have a lot of fun. Like, wow, my hands are a bit faster today. Wow, I broke like one more throw than normal. I can feel myself getting faster. And that's something that I think is missing from perception when you are locked into arriving at a certain place constantly, right?
Right. And I think it's really difficult. And I think people might view players or creators such as you or myself as if we're overly critical or like harsh on ourselves. And I see a lot of my same mentality in you. It's like, no, like I'm not really as down on myself as I might seem when I'm calling myself trash or garbage, because you have to find that balance between like making sure that you stay humble and also hungry. So it's like understanding like how far you have come and you've grown and how much better you are than you were before, or even better than other players, but not letting it go to your head and understanding that there's still so much left further to climb. So when I'm telling myself, oh, I'm trash or I'm garbage for, why'd I let him win? Why didn't I punish that? It's like, no, like that's just how I talk to myself. You know, I'm fine. I'm not, because you definitely can make yourself, you can hurt your own self-esteem or your own mental, or discourage yourself from wanting to continue to play the game, let alone improve by that way. I think there needs to be an understanding of how you yourself talk to yourself. And I understand that I have thick skin and I'm not going to hurt my own feelings.
Best sentence I've ever been told is it's not that serious.
But it's not that serious. Coming
to that conclusion myself was where the power came from, right? Like, it's not that serious. When I can tell myself that shit hits.
Show. But yeah, I think that actually covers a lot of what I want to talk about. This has been a really enjoyable conversation, discussion for me. Is there anything else you think we should touch on, or anything that you wanted to add to it before we start wrapping things up here?
Yeah, I feel like people are going to lock onto the fact that I said I started seeing real Tekken at Tenryu and really lock in on that. I wanted to emphasize more that I see a lot of Tekken missing at God of Destruction. like the fact that I saw one dude who was probably on his 5th character, like on Tenryu, who was like a legacy player on his 2nd account. Okay, like that's what it felt like. Okay, but I'm seeing people maining God of Destruction where I feel the gaps. I want to highlight that part. And it's not to harp on people or get down on people. It's more like really valuing the steps you take to grow, taking the time to appreciate that, and not letting other people say, you're carried, you did this thing, you did that. All that shit doesn't matter. It's what did you do for yourself playing this game that gave you enjoyment. If you have fun scrubbing people out with cheap grabs and stuff, enjoy that. Like the game has given you the opportunity to enjoy that. And I think that there's no reason to shame. It is on the job. It is the job of the other player getting killed by it to beat it.
For sure.
So I get equally upset at people who are harping on top X%, this and that, as I do to the people who are calling other people carried in a non-helpful manner. Right? I've been coached before, get called carried so that I can find skills to develop. I think that's good.
Right.
Or like harmless shit talk, right? But if people are calling you carried legitimately, like your friends, and like are giving you advice not to make you better, but because they're frustrated, I think that's whack. And to me, that's on the same level of, bro, you got to get good. I got to get, let me enjoy the game. I want to enjoy the game. You know, it's just understanding that there are effective ways and ineffective ways when it comes to improving, but it's a game. We're supposed to enjoy it.
I would agree. As something else I've touched on before myself, where it's like, it is, you know, one of the comments I got on that frame trap video was something along the lines of, and I'm trying to remember this as verbatim as I can. That's so scrubby, like taking advantage of somebody who doesn't know any better, or something like, they were basically saying that like I'm being cheap and a scumbag for using frame traps. I was like, yo, like, is this really how people feel? But like, I get it, because like there's so many things that people instill these mental restrictions or like these things on themselves because they think it makes them a better player, or think it makes them more I don't know, just or righteous or whatever than the next player. And it's like, you not using throws is not making you a better player than anyone else. And I think you made a similar video talking about that same subject, where it's like, don't worry about being honest or not being cheap. Do the grimy shit. If it's working, then it's what you should do. Now understand, if you're reliant solely on like cheap gimmicky things, you may eventually hit a roadblock, and it's like, why can't I progress? And that's when you have to take a look at your own play and realize, okay, these are the things I need to do and I need to work on. But if it's working for you, then it's working.
Yep. No, exactly. And you will learn more by trying something that works and seeing when it stops working, than trying to bend reality into a way where it doesn't work because you think it shouldn't. right? Like
sure.
the game will tell you if something works or it doesn't. It might not do it immediately. It might depend on the player, but eventually, if it's not working, you will learn more following the objective rules of the system we're in than the made up rules of somebody on the internet. Like, you know?
For sure. Yeah, I think that pretty much does it. I think one of the main takeaways I want people to understand is that it's okay to take pride in whatever rank that you've managed to achieve, and seeing ranks as certain milestones or markers of improvement is okay, as long as you're actually looking at the gameplay and realizing the things that you either need to improve on or the things that you did improve on. Because there's so much variance in between these different ranks and everything like that, and there's no concrete answer to this is where you're a good player or this is where they're playing real Tekken. And also, like, as corny as it is, just remember to have fun along the way, man.
Yeah, for real.
So many people get so caught up in themselves or like frustrated because they can't achieve a certain rank, and they focus more on the rank instead of getting better and letting the rank come to them. And it's just, I just want to see people continue to enjoy the game and understand that as you continue to improve, all that else, all the other stuff will come along with it naturally.
Yeah, I would like to add that I love this conversation, and I think my new answer is, if somebody asks me like, is this rank good, or is this, like, whatever the title of this video will probably be,
right.
my answer might almost always be is like, why are you asking that? Right? Like I believe shifting the mindset entirely to the gameplay, the quality of what's happening on screen, my perception, my reactions, all these things. What steps can I take to actually improve it? I think shifting to that completely different road is my dream utopia. Is everybody's there. Everybody's like focused on the process and the enjoyment. And that's idealistic and not gonna happen. But that might be my default answer, is just like moving people more towards that direction. I would enjoy that a lot personally. It's what I wish people would have given to me. And simultaneously, it's something I acknowledge that is only powerful if it comes from within. Right? Like if somebody tells you stop caring, you're not going to stop caring. If you discover yourself to stop caring, that shit sticks.
Today is actually April 5th as we're recording this, so let me be a little bit of a weeb and pay a little bit of a tribute to Akira Toriyama. As you all know, he recently passed away. Today's his birthday.
Wow. Yeah.
Remember when Vegeta went Super Saiyan? It's when he stopped caring.
Yes,
I didn't care anymore.
Yeah.
Something inside of me snapped.
Yeah.
And that's when he was able to take things to the next level. Yeah, thank you so much, PhiDX, today for joining me on the channel. Like I said, hopefully the first of future collaborations. So hopefully everybody who sat down and watched and listened to this video thoroughly enjoyed it. If you're not already familiar with PhiDX, well, you've probably gotten to know him pretty well by the end of this video. But if you don't already follow him, links to his socials and his YouTube channel will be linked in the description down below, as well as also as a pinned comment. And yeah, man, I can't thank you enough for joining me today. Any closing remarks?
No, I appreciated being here. I thought it was great sharing these thoughts with someone with a similar perspective. And yeah, this is a great time. Thank you.
No doubt. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Hit this video with a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you haven't already, so you can stay tuned for all the awesome content that I'm bringing you. And with all that being said, that's pretty much all for today. And remember, nothing can happen until you swing the bat. Later.
Peace.